Hey everybody, Plushie here, and today it is revealed that the new event of the week is Servant Strengthening Wave 18, so we'll be getting 1 buff each day and 7 buffs in total. The first buff is of course already revealed, it is Arjuna Archer, but we still have 6 different servants that only have their class and rarity revealed. So today I want to make a fun video where I predict what servants could get buffed. A lot of people ask me, what is your wish list for this buff? I think I might as well make a video out of it and discuss some of these servants with you as well. So without further ado, let's get into today's video on my personal servant buff predictions. So tomorrow we'll be getting a 4-star assassin buff, and personally I think no other character deserves it more than Assassin Carmilla. Assassin Carmilla really fell off. Like, this is a character that has a decently strong MP after the upgrade and just has garbage skills. Her first skill is a chance drain 27 battery. Second skill is a single target defense down for 20% for 3 turns. Torture technique base form is just horrendous. And her third skill is slightly better. It's a 10-star per turn and a 3-turn crit rate down. But even then, it is still a really bad skill compared to modern 4-stars. Again, she has a really good MP, it has an anti-trait, it's upgraded, it has a ramp up, and it even heals her. And she has decent base gains, but she has a horrible deck with 3 quicks and a Buster MP, and overall just very much unusable outside of versus females. And people might not even pick her when you're fighting against females because you have other better options either in the higher rarity or more accessible like Shiki. I want to see her torture technique get an upgrade because torture technique is just so bad in today's standards, and also we have seen other torture technique buffs. We saw it on both Elizabeth and Wu Zetian, both greatly increasing these characters' utility. I don't necessarily think Carmilla needs more utility, but I do think this character basically lives or dies by her MP. So she should actually have easier access to her MP so that she can fit into perhaps farming teams or just use her MP easier in general. I'm suggesting a 30 MP battery to be added onto her second skill, and also I think Carmilla needs better general damage because she has basically no damage steroids in her skill set, so also a 3-turn 30% MP damage up. I think this buff can make Carmilla a lot more modernized and fit into both boss killing and farming, and I think that would be really great because as of now I don't really see anyone using her. On the third day, we will be getting another 4-star assassin buff, and this time I'm nominating Yu Mei Ren, or Consort Yu. This character is very infamous for her MP, which removes all of her own buffs before it actually does damage. But this actually isn't that big of a problem after her second skill's buff. Her second skill, after receiving a buff, gives her a full-on 3-turn buff removal resist, which doesn't just counteracts her MP effect, but also blocks every other buff removal attempt because it is full on 3 turns instead of 3 times 3 turns. It also has a really high uptime of a 3-turn duration and 5-turn cooldown. Her MP, now without the demerit, actually looks really strong because it removes all of her own debuffs and it ignores defense, and the overcharge effect is a buster up for 1 turn before damage that scales from 50 to 100%. But why is she still bad? Well, the answer is simple. Her damage still sucks despite the overcharge effect looking pretty insane because of her really low attack stat and her assassin class. Since her main issue is damage, then just upgrade her MP. I think this is the most simple and easy solution to make this character usable. Give it a base damage scaling bump, as well as add a common anti-trait such as anti-earth or anti-man, whichever makes more sense lore-wise, and she suddenly becomes an extremely solid AoE DPS and can even do a little bit of buster looping. She can spam her MP very easily in challenge quests because of her first skill being a 5-turn duration, 5-turn cooldown MP slow charge, essentially with no downtime. And again, this is what also enables her to do buster looping. And overall, I think Yu Mei Ren really has good potential. Like, again, people overblow her MP's self buff removal effect, when in reality, her second skill buff very much solved all of its issues. And now, if she can actually do damage with that MP that is pretty spammable, I think she would be an amazing servant. On the 4th day, we're supposed to get a 5-star Berserker buff. And of course, we cannot talk about Yu Meiren without talking about her favorite husband, Shang Yu. Shang Yu is probably one of the most looked down upon Berserkers. Not even just Berserkers, one of the most looked down upon servants in the game, because he is an AoE quick servant with no battery and no refund, so he can't spam his MP whatsoever. But his skill set also has nothing to do with his MP, essentially. He has a skill with 100% crit up, star absorb buff. He has another skill with a quick buster double buff and a 50% crit up, both only for 1 turn, but because he has 2 of them, it kind of feels like he has a 2-turn crit buff if you space them out. And his 3rd skill is also super strong. It is a 5-turn cooldown skill with a 3-turn star gen per turn and a 3-turn invul pierce. He also, of course, has Madness Enhancement at a really high rank, and a special version as well, which also boosts his critical damage further by 8%, and he has a triple buster deck. His MP is very lame. It's an AoE quick MP that has no effects normally, and the overcharge is 20% MP damage up for 1 turn. So his whole game plan ended up becoming make stars with his MP and then kill people with his buster cards. I think trying to make him a quick looper is a little bit too late at this point, because he would need like 280 MP batteries to beat Lohi. So instead, I think he should get an MP upgrade. Wait, what are you talking about, Plushie? I thought you just said he's supposed to be more card-centric and not care about his MP. Well, his MP is still the most buffable thing in his kit, in my opinion, because it has like no effects. So I'm still proposing an MP upgrade, so at least he can hit hard with that MP, even if he can't spam it. And he should get just 1 extra effect on the MP. A 50% buster up for 3 turns after damage. Well, it doesn't really matter. Yes, 50% mana burst for 3 turns, and he can ramp it up. I think his MP should just be a tool to increase his card damage. And he has too many crits already. So I think giving him a mana burst for 3 turns on his MP is really fitting. And if he can spam it, better. He gets 100% buster up for his buster cards. I think it might be a little bit overkill. FGO probably not do something like this. It would probably be like a 20% buster quick ramp up if you were to give him a ramp up realistically, but I just think it's really funny if you just completely ditch the idea to try to spam his MP and just go ham with his buster card. And 50% is just there because he can't really spam his MP easily. You might as well give it a big effect and he can take advantage of it for the following 2 to 3 turns without having to worry about it. On day 5, we'll get a buff for a 3-star rider. And honestly, I don't have the best idea as to who to suggest because 3-star riders are a little bit polarized. We just got a Medusa buff, so I think she's out. I really want a Boudica buff just so that she can be an even better support for Draco, I should say. But then, you know, it's kind of unfair because she already got a couple of buffs. And we also have characters like Ushiwaka Maru, who's already strong and also got 3 buffs. So she's now threatening some 4-star single target riders even. So I want to look more towards the stinkers. Characters like Red Hair and Columbus. They are rare because they're story locked, but they kind of suck. Red Hair recently got a really decent buff during like last anniversary, but because the actual servant as a whole is so bad, the buff really didn't help him that much. But because he just got a buff, we should take a look at the other stinker, Christopher Columbus. For some reason, I remember people saying he is actually decent after his MP upgrade all the way back. It could just be Mandela effect, but if you actually look at his damage, both at MP 5, he loses to Blackbeard, who's a 2-star rider. Like, bruh. Blackbeard even has better animations than he does. So Columbus definitely needs a little bit of help. But at the same time, because he already has an MP upgrade, I don't have any good ideas as to how to buff him. So I guess Just give him 30% power mod against good and 30% power mod against neutral for 3 turns on, I don't know, any of his skills, maybe Voyager of the Storm or something. Just because, you know, he's an evil guy, so give him anti-good makes sense. And more importantly, the anti-neutral allows him to do 60% extra damage against Geronimo, which is lore accurate technically. On day 6, we'll be getting a buff for a 4-star Rider, and of course, I have to nominate Rider Carmilla. I know Rider Mordred probably needs it more than she does, but it's my channel, it's gotta be Rider Carmilla. So Rider Carmilla honestly wasn't the worst servant ever. When she first came out, people really liked using her as a support, especially an esports support, because all of her skills are supportive effects that are debuffs, so she can die and all of these skill effects would still linger. She has a special effect on her skill 2 where she can put a debuff on the enemy and it would drain the enemy's gauge a turn after, and also more importantly charge the entire party's MP by 25 a turn later. I still think she is the only character that has a delayed MP charge that will still work even after she dies. So it is pretty unique, but as you know, the years gone by, she has sort of fell off as a support. She is supposed to be a damage support for crit servants. I didn't say crit support because her first skill acts as a 50% defense down if you crit with your cards. So she doesn't actually give you any crit ups, but she gives you a lot of defense down if you actually crit with your cards. And of course, the third skill is another 30% defense down. So if you're using her with a crit servant, that's a whopping 80% defense down, which is pretty good. Even though defense down caps at 100. So nowadays with servants like Khazra drop, you know, in quick, she's kind of unusable as a quick support. Ironically, she's used more in buster teams now than quick. But her MP also gives a decent amount of supportive effects. It gives a quick down, which only works in quick, which kind of sucks because of the defense down cap, but still, you know, it's nice. And it also gives a buff block. So if you specifically needs buff block, you can also use her MP. One of Carmilla Rider's biggest problems is that all of her supportive effects are debuffs. Even her MP effects are debuffs. So if the enemy even has a slightly higher debuff resist than normal, she can get completely screwed over in terms of her supportability. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to introduce the second ever party-wide debuff success rate up skill in the game. The only other character that has this is Castergill, who is predominantly an art support that doesn't really gel too well with quick units. But quick units are by far the ones that need a debuff success rate up effect the most. Characters such as Kama and Kashin Koji, their damage actually relies on them landing their debuffs with their MP, so having this type of support is pretty important. So I think Carmilla Rider's buff should be a skill 3 buff, or honestly any other skill would be fine. I just use skill 3 because I think it is the most boring, and adds a party-wide 50% debuff success rate up for 3 turns. And also, it has a 30 MP battery that is targetable only to one target. I just added that because I want the buff to have like a little bit more effects, and Carmilla lacks immediate charge giving as a support. So a targetable 30 battery seems pretty fair. She can use it on her own as well if you need her MP. And overall, this very much solves a big niche that currently is only occupied by a single servant in the game, which I think should be more common. Like debuff success rate up should definitely be more common. And of course, the debuff success rate up also helps herself land all of her supportive effects. So I think overall, you know, making Carmilla more of a niche, unique support that not a lot of other characters can like replace is really good. And finally, on the last day, we'll be getting a 5-star Lancer buff. And I'm very torn on who to nominate between 2 different servants. Vritra has been stuck in a very awkward situation because she's just a very boring AoE arts looper. Like, people remember her better because of Ocean Flyer, the CE, instead of Vritra, the actual servant. Because if people wanted an arts looping Lancer, they would just go for Percival, who's infinitely more accessible and easy to use. And if you need a boss fight DPS, Vritra also isn't the best because her puny anti-divine damage is just a 30% power mod, which doesn't help her case at all, and overall you just have better options even for Art's AoE loopers in terms of boss fights. But I have to give my vote, or my nomination, to Tama Lancer. She desperately needs an MP upgrade. Now yes, she did get a buff for her third skill. Now it's a really good skill. She removed the stun, which is the biggest demerit, and it also extended one of its effects and added a 30 MP battery. But Tama Lancer still faces a very tough damage issue, because most other single target Lancers from older times have MP upgrades, while she is the only one who doesn't. If you take a look at characters like Skahak and Enkidu, their damage at MP1 when not hitting any traits is equal or above Tama Lancer's damage at MP1 when hitting a male target, which is really bad. Like, if you're an anti-trait unit, you should always beat your peers when you're hitting your specific anti-trait. Not to mention, both Enkidu and Skahak have very strong anti-traits. Enkidu has anti-threat to humanity, and Skahak has anti-divine at 100% power mod. If you take a look at her MP right now, it doesn't even have a secondary effect other than the anti-male. This definitely needs a glow up because of her horrendous MP damage compared to every other single target Lancer essentially. So my suggestion for a Tama Lancer buff is of course an MP upgrade, and before the MP does damage, give all Tamamo face allies, including herself, a 3-turn 20% MP damage up. Because of course, you know I just had to fit in a Koyan Dark buff in a buff suggestion video, even though there's no foreigner buff. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is a very casual one, but because so many people asked me what I wanted to get buffed, again, might as well answer you in a video instead of a really long-winded comment. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully, at least I get a couple of them right.